Well, we are 4 days away from the release of the fifth Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's set to release on Friday, June the 30th, and I'm going to see it on its opening day, even though I am 98% sure that it's going to be bad. Why? Well, I guess I'm just curious. This is a film that, or this is a genre. This whole series of movies heavily informed my imagination in my childhood. Second only to Star Wars, and so it's a huge part of growing up. Was Indiana Jones for me? The character of Indiana Jones, the adventures of Indiana Jones. It was a big part of my early cinematic formation. I had two cinematic formations. One came when I was around 11 or 12, and it was mostly escapist popcorn fare, adventure movies, science fiction movies, and that sort of thing. And then later, when I was 17, 18, 19, I had a second, my second cinematic interest or incarnational moment where I was liking the harsh, disturbing kind of movies like Taxi Driver, Apocalypse Now, and so forth. But the earlier, more formative part of me, it was all about movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and especially Raiders of the Lost Ark, but all of the initial trilogy of Indiana Jones movies. Now, something that I wanted to comment on today in this video is I do believe there is, Yuri Brezhnev, I think that's how you say his name, has a fairly famous video about psychological warfare. And, of course, demoralization is a big part of psychological warfare. It's a big part of how the enemy gets to you. Is by demoralizing you. It's by telling you that that hope is foolish, that you've lost already. Essentially, the black pill. I know that's controversial for some of you to hear, but it's absolutely true. So if you're a black-pilled kind of person, you may not intentionally be working for the enemy, but you might as well be. That's a point that I've made several times before. Now, I've seen a pattern develop recently over the last, let us say, 6 or 7 years, particularly. Ever since this era that we're struggling through right now, this era of immense decombobulation, let us call it, began right around 2015, 2016, and we're still in it now, deeper than ever, here in 2023. And around this time, we began to see this particular type of archetype being fed to us. And the archetype is that your hero, the person that you believed, that you love to watch because he's the man, he's vital, he's strong, he's got it going on, he's got what it takes, he's got the moves. Everything that makes you say, yeah, I like this guy, I'm drawn to this guy, this guy's a hero for me. They took that away. They suddenly started taking that away from iconic characters. Now, I'm going to list off a few. Some of them I don't care about particularly, but I'm citing them here, just to register them, showing that there is this pattern going on that I think is part of an active demoralization campaign against, the against the hapless Western hoi polloi, which I guess I'm one of, since I'm definitely not one of the elites. Not that I think of the elites as being elite, but that's, let's just call them by that name, ironically, as it were. So the first instance of this, this person, and it's a man. It's always a man, as far as I can tell. I haven't seen an instance of this for a woman character yet. But it's always a man, usually a white man, although in one case not even that, as we will talk about in a moment. But the first instance of this was the movie Logan, which came out in 2017. And in that movie, we see the character of Wolverine from the X-Men. Again, I'm not a cape shit kind of guy. I've said that before. It's not my jam. But I think it's, I encourage you, listener, watcher, not just to roll your eyes if you think, if you're down on pop culture, or if you're down on this aspect of pop culture or that aspect of pop culture, if you think it's all just ephemeral and ridiculous and we shouldn't be, why bother talking about it? Well, it's important to talk about, even if you don't like it, even if you're not into it. It's important to see, I would argue, to see what they're trying to do to us through pop culture, through pop culture outlets. Now, some, in a more golden age that wasn't too long ago, the popular culture was mainly for entertainment. When I was growing up, it was that way. It wasn't really, what kind of lessons are we being taught? What are we being taught we should, we should be, what kind of virtue signaling is taking place in these movies? Virtue signaling wasn't really a thing in the 80s or the 90s in movies. It didn't really happen. Boy, oh boy, is it a thing now, isn't it? So it's almost ubiquitous. So in the movie Logan, as I can recall, because I saw it, the guy who plays Wolverine it's like set in the future, and he's now an old man. He's broken. He's given up on his dreams. He's bitter. Things have not turned out well for him. So I think he's like working as a chauffeur or in some menial, lowly job. And he's old and his powers aren't really functional anymore, or they're not really reliable anymore. And I think he's a drunk, if I'm remembering right. And so all this stuff, it's like just meant to be a punch to the gut. Like, you liked Wolverine because he was, he kicked ass. He was the man. But now he's not kicking any ass, and he's not the man. He's not the man. He's an old man who's totally lost his mojo. And so the character had an arc, to use that annoying term, where he does gain a purpose for living, and so it's not totally hopeless the way that the movie goes. Nevertheless, when I don't think we're ever really, we're still left with the impression of Wolverine or Logan as this decrepit, broken, embittered old guy, old drunk. So that was the first instance of this. Now, there might be. Actually, I'm going to say the first instance of what I'm talking about might actually precede Logan, now that I'm thinking about it. And that's in the first of the Disney Star Wars movies, The Force Awakens. Now, this isn't exactly the same. I'm talking about the way that Han Solo is presented in that movie. It's not exactly the same because Han Solo is not old and decrepit and worn out and embittered, but he's just basically he hasn't progressed at all from the way he was. He hasn't evolved. He hasn't matured. He hasn't become, what you would think he would be at this stage of his life, given what we know about the end of the Star Wars trilogy, when it's clear that he and Princess Leia are headed for romance and possibly marriage. And I think the books of the expanded universe of Star Wars, the EU, and some of the comic books, which talked about what happened after Return of the Jedi, and which, when Disney took over, they said it's all non-canon. And they renamed it Legends because they wanted to make their own shitty timeline to replace it. But in the expanded universe, Han Solo, as I understand it, Han Solo married Princess Leia. They had kids together, and Han Solo wasn't just this this mercenary fly by the seat of his pants. Kind of guy, anymore. He became, a part of the Rebel Alliance, and how now they defeated the Empire, and Princess Leia was high in the echelon of this new established order that took over after overthrowing the tyranny of the Empire. Han Solo was became this captain of the Space Force or something. He became this important figure within the established authority that took over post Empire, and so he still had certain qualities that were Han Solo, but that was Han Solo-ish as we knew him in the original trilogy. But he changed, he matured, he grew. So he wasn't just the same old guy. And there was something really demoralizing in The Force Awakens to see him just still doing exactly what he was doing, but 30 years later or whatever, still flying around the galaxy, still flying by the seat of his pants, still getting into trouble with, having a price on his head, and all the kind of drama that was a part of his character in the original trilogy. Still hanging out with Chewbacca. Not that he and Chewbacca would. They were fast friends. They would have always stayed friends, but just in the same exact circumstances before. Arrested Development, right? Arrested Development. He's in his 60s now, or maybe even a little older than that. Maybe getting into his 70s, and he's still the same old guy that he was in his 30s. It was ridiculous to do that to him and to Princess Leia, to make them. To make it so that their romance never panned out, and they weren't in fact made for one another like we were led to believe through the original trilogy. So there was something there was something like intended, I think, to be demoralizing about that, intended to be a punch in the gut about that. And of course they kill him off, very egregiously in that movie. Not in a way where he that gives him any kind of redemption or whatever. He just stabbed into the back by his son, literally. And he falls into a pit, and that's it. And that's the end of Han Solo. So maybe that was the first real instance of, the hero that you grew up with is now, just an old man who never got anywhere in life, and winds up being murdered by his own son, in very egregious, ugly circumstances. That was a kind of smearing your face in shit kind of moment, I believe. That was an instance of demoralization, but not nearly so much as we saw with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. That was something. That was an instance, another instance of what the main thing I'm talking about here, which is you're an old man. Look, your hero, the guy who saved the galaxy, the guy who redeemed his evil father, Darth Vader, because he believed in him, the guy who would never bail on his friends, the guy with a heart of gold, just everything that you loved about Luke Skywalker, everything that I loved about Luke Skywalker. He was my boy. He was my man when I was watching those movies as a kid. And now he's a bitter old man. He's living on this planet all by himself, and he's just going around saying, the Force is stupid. Jedi are stupid. I don't want anything to do with anybody. Let me drink milk from this strange creature's breast, this green, and smear it all over my beard and like, just what the hell? What are you doing? Well, it's obvious what they're doing, and Rey hands him his lightsaber, and he takes it and throws it over his shoulder and walks away, because that's what he is now. He's just this bitter old man. And it's time for the Jedi to end, and everything's stupid, and everything's, he doesn't want to help anybody. He doesn't care about. He doesn't really have friends anymore. He's just bitter and isolated from everybody else in the, everybody that he was connected with before. And what's more, we find out that he almost murdered one of his own students, one of his young Padawans, because he sensed the evil in him, so his nephew, so he was going to kill him while he was asleep. What the hell? Luke Skywalker would not do that. He would not feel tempted to do that. It would never occur to him to do those kinds of things. And Mark Hamill himself, the actor, said, look, this isn't Luke Skywalker to me. This may be some other. This is Jake. This is Jake Skywalker. Somebody, maybe distantly related to Luke, but this isn't Luke. This isn't Luke as I knew him. And that was another punch in the gut. Of course, all of The Last Jedi practically was an effort to sneer at you and tell you your heroes are stupid, it was an evil movie. I'm not holding back at all here. It was a malicious movie done with malicious intent, and it's also a bad movie. But especially, what was especially wrong about it was the way that Luke Skywalker was treated. The hero of the ages, the someone that I was attached to, and so many other younger people were attached to, because we could relate to him, because he had problems, but he was a good guy, and he struggled through. And he always believed in, even when he got frustrated, he still persevered. And now he's the very opposite of that. He's just this this crabby old, son of a bitch. That was a most egregious instance of what I'm talking about. So then they did the exact same thing. Disney did the exact same thing. Disney Lucasfilm did the exact same thing to Obi-Wan Kenobi when they had the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that broadcast, I think in 2020 or 2021. They made it so that he was they portrayed him as somebody who had lost, during the prequels he was this vital, as played by Ewan McGregor, who's probably the best thing about the prequels, his portrayal of Obi-Wan. He was this again, this vital, powerful, smart, resourceful kind of person, and he suffered this terrible tragedy with the young man he was mentoring, Anakin Skywalker, when he turned evil. But then he took care of business with Anakin Skywalker after he became Darth Vader. He took him down, so he did what he had to do, even though it hurt him to have to do it. But now in this miniseries, they do the same thing to Obi-Wan that they did to Luke. They make him into an old. He's not even that old. He was 50, 51, and Ewan McGregor looks great at his age. He's about my age. He looks much better than me, needless to say. But he's like, oh, he's an old man now, and he's bitter, and he's angry, and he doesn't want to participate in the Force and all that stuff. He's just totally lost his way. So again, your hero, not only was he great, not only was he the man in the prequels, but the portrayal of Obi-Wan in the original trilogy, when he was an old man, as portrayed by Sir Alec Guinness, he wasn't a broken old man. He clearly, and he wasn't even weak. He could still hold his own. He was a formidable character, and he only died because he sacrificed himself. In the scene in Star Wars, also known as A New Hope. But now they're portraying him years before that, years before he was that character, as just this cranky, bitter, kind of guy. This character who's totally lost his way and doesn't believe in anything anymore. And yeah, again, his arc is that he learns to care again. After meeting the adorable, precocious Princess Leia as a little girl, but still, the impression that it leaves with is definitely is a bad taste in your mouth, and it's definitely demoralizing if you care about this character, if you see him as somebody, like this is a great man, this is a great character, this is somebody that I thrilled to watch. And now, look what they've done to him. Look what he's been reduced to. Again, I'm not into cape shit, but think of what they did to Thor. I don't even know which movie it was. I haven't seen most of them, but I've seen a couple of them. And there's one where Thor, who was like, this big, strong, macho kind of character. I think it was, it might have been, I can't think of the title right now, but people might know people will know what I'm talking about when I talk about it. We meet Thor, and he's suddenly just he's gotten all fat, and he just wants to sit around and play video games all day. because something has broken him. Something has broken his spirit. He's not old like the other characters that I've been talking about, or like, he's not portrayed as old or said to be old. But we just see him like essentially emasculated, and it's presented in a comedic way, but it's really not. It really wasn't funny, and I don't really even care about these characters. I'm not into these movies, but I saw what they were doing with this. I saw it's like, oh, here's a strong white man, with blonde hair, very very Aryan looking, perfect, hunky, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, muscular guy, and now he's just he's fat and he doesn't want to, and he doesn't want to do anything anymore. He just wants to sit around. And again, it's like it's just a really egregious kind of it's like spitting in your face. I described it before as a punch to the gut. It's all of those things. It's just there's something there's some sheer malice of intent, I believe, when we see these characters, when we see them doing these kinds of things to these characters. And now recently I hear with this series on Disney Plus called Secret Invasion, which I haven't seen. I don't care to see. But it's my understanding, from what I've heard, that Nick Fury, who's played by Samuel L. Jackson, they do the same thing to him. Now he's old, embittered, and can't, he just can't get anything done. He's become just the same old angry old man, loser, kind of archetype of demoralization that I'm talking about, that I'm describing with all of these other characters. Samuel L. Jackson, as you know, is black. All the rest of these characters are white, of course, white men. I don't think that's coincidental either, but this is just to say it's not just white men that they're targeting. It's men in general that they're targeting. And beyond them targeting men, I think that it's just trying to show your heroes in a way that is embarrassing, that is really unflattering. It's like it's like seeing somebody who you knew to be strong and healthful and youthful, whatever age he was, he had this vitality about him, and now he's like incontinent, he pees on himself, he has to wear adult diapers or something like that. I mean, it's the equivalent of that, and just forcing your face into it. It's so malicious, it's so evil, it's so terrible that they are doing this, and I think it needs to be called out. So finally, this leads to what the character that began this entire video, and that's the famous Indiana Jones. The other, besides Han Solo, this is the other character, and Deckard from Blade Runner, of course. This is yet another sort of archetypal character, archetypal hero from the 80s movies, that was portrayed by Harrison Ford as just this strong, manly, macho kind of guy. He had feet of clay. He had certain things like that humanized him, like his fear of snakes, and he could be funny, and there was a comedic aspect to him. But he was, generally speaking, he was the man. He was somebody who could get it done. He was somebody you rooted for, and that you saw that in spite of his faults, he was on top of his game. He had it going on. And even in the much maligned Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he's still that way. Now this was filmed years later. Now he's in his mid 60s, but he's still, the same old Indiana Jones that he was in those movies before. He's still got all of these qualities that made him, a recognizable hero. And it seems that in this movie, what they're going to show is yet again your hero. He's a broken old man, right? He's, from what I understand, they've unceremoniously killed Mutt off, his son that we were introduced to in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Mutt died in Vietnam, and then he became a drunkard, and then Marion left him, and now he's just this drunken old souse, that is still teaching archaeology, but nobody wants him around anymore. It's not like the other movies where all the girls are in his class are sighing at him and have crushes on him. Now he's just this old grandpa on this 80-year-old guy who's just lost everything and embittered and mad at the world, and there's nothing for him. And that's going to be the impression that is left upon us from what I understand. And that's why, even though I'm going to see this movie, I think I'm going to pay to see something else, because I don't want Lucasfilm or Disney to get my dollars. It's kind of a silly gesture, but it's something I'm probably going to do if I can get away with it. Now I'll come back and say mea culpa if I'm wrong after I see the movie, but it's my impression from everything I'm hearing about this movie and everything that's being said about this movie. And it's going to crash and burn, because everything that Disney touches for the last few years, with only a few exceptions, is turning to shit. Because people don't want to be demoralized, and people don't want to be lectured to. They want escapism. They want entertainment. That's what they want. They want to see their heroes do heroic things. So there you go. And I've mentioned, I think 5 or 6 examples of this. There are probably more that I'm just not thinking of. And if you have something to add, please leave it below. But this whole trend is of your hero, the person that you grew up thinking was your hero. Now he's nothing. Now he can't get anything done. He's just impotent, and he's frustrated, and he's lost all hope. And the message there is, if Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Nick Fury and Wolverine and Indiana Jones, if they can't hack it, you think you can? If these larger than life heroes, if they're just going to become these bitter, hopeless, mere shadows of what they had been in their glory years, if that's going to happen to them, you think you have a chance? You think anybody has a chance? No, silly man. You must lose hope, because we command it. That's what they want from us. I'm convinced. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think below. Thanks for watching.